that took you from innocence to experience. And all of us college counselors emailed them immediately and said, are you kidding? We're gonna get essays about sex. No, you're not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. No match today?
No, it was, it got canceled.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. All set, are we recording?
Yes, let's look anything, okay?
I'll just mug, that's all. So yeah, clearly there are some topics you want to avoid, but don't feel like you have to be too, I say conservative, because that's like a bad word these days. Too straight, well, that's bad too. What can I use? Too traditional. They don't have to be. So we'll start up again, and we'll talk about do not make assumptions about your readers. They're not all 800 years old like me. Most admissions people are in their 20s. They're going to understand you. They understand you're really sort of part of their generation. So you don't have to put it at a level where like grandma could read it. You don't have to do that. Plus they went to college. They're pretty smart, so please don't insult their intelligence that way. Hey, never let Bill Gates be your only editor. Spell check, autocorrect, they're good tools. But if you can see from this, there was a young woman who applied to the Wharton School of Business, misspelled the word business. Spell check didn't know she was spelling business and thought she was spelling something else, and ended up applying to the Wharton School of Bunnies. Now, I don't know about you, but I would love to go to the Wharton School of Bunnies. It's like the best place in the world to go. She actually became something of a legend. She was admitted. It didn't kill her, and she was admitted. She's an amazing candidate, and she became something of a legend for the Penn admissions office. Like they brought her in and had a little celebration of her. She had no idea she said that to do. You're the bunny woman to do. So I had one at Swarthmore years and years ago, a young woman who wrote about her hobby, which was quilting and knitting. And it was actually a pretty interesting essay. But she used the word crocheted 3 times and she spelled it crotched. It's like, I didn't want to go near a quilt once to that. So I brought her down and I showed her the essay and she was mortified. Like I said, excuse me, you're admitted, you're here. It's no big deal to do. So please have human beings read your essay, proofreaders that you trust, people that you feel comfortable giving you honest feedback. You're not going to be like, you don't love me. And yes, we do love you. That's why we're giving you this feedback with that. Hey, please, I mean, by all means, use spell check, use autocorrect, use Chat GPT only to give yourself some ideas or to get some sense of grammar. Do not use Chat GPT as your writer because, well, other than the fact that it's dishonest, it's pretty easy to spot that. People will see that, right? So here we go. Suggesting potential topic, sure. Grammatical fixes, sure. Was it editing, rewriting? No. You do sign a statement before you submit your application that this is your work. So please abide by this demand and show that you are ethical. Again, brainstorming, sure. So, hey, Chat GPT, I had this amazing experience in Nepal. What should I write about? Right, to do. Hey, Chat GPT, is this the conditional tense or is it the hortatory subjunctive? And GPT goes, well, what the heck is that? So, well, that's fine. That's fine. They're not writing for you to do that. Okay. So, any questions? I mean, I know this is a little short with essay because we did some last time. Anybody have any questions about essays and writing? Okay, so this pertains to what would be called the main essay or personal statement. Okay. There are a number of schools that ask for other essays. These are called supplementary essays. They're not supplementary. And some of them are optional. But some of the optional essays are not optional. The more selective the school to which you apply, the less optional an optional essay is. Okay, if you apply to a school where you exceed their expectations, it's optional. If you apply to Harvard, not optional. So abide by that to do it. The supplementary essays are typically more structured and more focused. So for example, if you were applying to a school in Canada or the UK, they don't want a personal essay like this. They want, why do you want to major in this? Why do you want to come here to major in this? What stuff have you done to show me that you want to major in this? And, oh, I like rabbits. Like that's what your essay would be. That's your essay, right? The supplementary essays are usually things like, why Richmond? What major will you select at Cornell? They're typically more focused that way. Now, there are some that are different. There's some that are actually fun, dare I say that. Like Wake Forest asks you for your top 10 list. We top 10 anything for that. Maryland has 4 or 5 short answer questions, right? This past Friday, you finish the sentence with that. The University of Chicago goes out of its way to give you, let's just call them creative prompts. They actually poll the first year class that comes in and ask them, if you were going to write essays for Chicago, what should they be? And they pick the 6 best ones. And then they use those as prompts. So 2 years ago, one of the essays was, so where is Waldo anyway? That was one of the essays from that. And they've had some great ones, some absolutely amazing ones. The most, you're going to die with this one. This was years ago. Eminent Israeli psychiatrist Rollo May wrote a seminal book entitled The Meaning of Anxiety. If that title were reversed to say the anxiety of meaning, how anxious would you be right now? That's the essay. Like, oh my God, I'm anxious already because I don't understand what the essay is to do. So, sometimes you'll get creative ones. Most of the time, they'll be specific to the school, specific to the college within the school, specific to the major. Those are going to be more focused. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, the public schools in this region did a very, very smart thing. They asked the junior English teachers to give 1 week at the end of the school year to writing a college essay. Because you don't really get a lot of practice doing this. Mostly what you write in high school are papers. You're defending the thesis. You're coming to that's not what this is all about. You're not coming to a conclusion. You're 17. You haven't concluded yet. Right? So this is not what they're looking for. So this doesn't come naturally. This needs a little bit of practice. And I am thankful for the schools here that do that. Not all the schools around will. I mean, the private schools certainly do, but the local schools here, the Lower Merion schools, started that a couple of years ago. And that's nice, because then you get practice as to how to write these kinds of essays to do it. If your school district or your school does not do that, this would be a good time to suggest that they really should do that. That's a smart thing to do, students, okay? So that's the essay. And we're going to talk about activities next. I don't have a fancy, this is actually in word area. So this is a resume. Do all colleges want resumes? The answer is no, most do not. Because the applications themselves have an area where you list your activities and describe them. Not a really great section because it's very limited in what you're given, but some will allow you to attach a resume. And so I'm going to do this looking at the resume, just describing the kinds of activities that you would list. So in applications, there's honors and awards. Now, the common application, this has its own category. So I wouldn't have to put this because it has its own category. But there are certain things, like the National Honor Society. Some schools have obligations for students that are in the National Honor Society. So those students would have to tutor, for example. Some have to tutor as part of it. Some do fundraisers. They may have, if that's the case, then National Honor Society is not just an honor. It's an activity also that way. So other honors would be, well, this is actually my resume. This is stuff I did in high school, except I changed some of the names. Like our National Honor Society was not the Lawrence Ferlinghetti chapter. I just love Lawrence Ferlinghetti's poetry. So, but I part of the National Latin exam, I said participant. Why did I say that? Because I didn't win any medals. I wasn't gold or silver or bronze or whatever, magna cum laude to do that. But other things that could go here, if you're a National Merit Commended student, if you're an AP scholar, like those kinds of things would go here to do. These are academic awards typically that go here. So next would be in-school activities. And in-school activities can be anything, as long as they're directly related to the school. So for me, I did a community service corps. This one, right? My high school didn't have a community service corps. We had no service clubs at all. I grew up in Smelly, North Jersey, so we would do things in Harlem. We were helping underserved neighborhoods that way. I was in drama. I was in intramural sports, so you can see the parentheses, not skilled enough to play at a varsity level. That's an understatement. I was on the school newspaper and I was in the chemistry club. So little things like that. I would say community service is definitely the most important one. Nothing else is all that particularly distinguished, but that's okay. Then out of school activities. Come on, you can do it. Come on, Mouse, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah, there we go. This is probably my big one. I went to a National Science Foundation summer science training program in the summer. I actually went after junior year and after senior year for that. And I got all these biochemistry, electricity, calculus. You have to understand, this is 1967, so DNA had just been discovered like 8 years before that. So it's a little different back then. I was an umpire. I wasn't a really good player and I didn't want to be a coach because everybody yells at you. I figured if I'm an umpire, they're gonna be yelling at me anyway, so why not? I volunteered at the library. I started volunteering at my local library when I was in 4th grade. I love libraries, dude. And I was a member of the Catholic Youth Organization. I wasn't a big church kind of guy, but I got involved in a lot of the team activities that way to do. Okay. So then we go to the next page and we have employment. Okay, do you have to have a job, go to college? No. But if you have employment, that counts. That's taking responsibility. My big thing was being in the laborers union that paid for part of I went to a private high school because the one in my town was a Boston. So that paid for part of my high school and paid for part of my college. Back then, you could actually do that. So I was in the Laborers International Union and then Eddie's Mobile Station. I grew up in South Amwood, not East Jesus. That's just a name I made up for that. So Eddie's father, my friend, Eddie was his father. So I was like the sub at his gas station and I started at age 12. And what a trip that was. Because I remembered people would come in, they would get out of the car, they would go looking around in their car for any change that was left over. And they would give me like 60, 70, 80 cents. That would buy 5 gallons of gasoline. 17 cents a gallon. When I was 12 years old. It's like, oh my God, to do. So, and then interest in pastimes. This is something most people skip. They don't realize that that's part of your activities. Because sometimes these really can rise to a level of importance. For me, things like reading, baseball, collecting records. I still have most of my 45s to do, opera, all those kinds of things. So those are the 5 major categories of activities. So let's talk about how they make an impact with college. And so here's your guidelines. Oh, excuse me. I'm back. So some of you may have grown up in a in a country outside the United States. And you may have learned to do a chronological resume. So you would do 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. That is not the model that US schools want. Because if you've played baseball for 4 years, I see baseball 4 different times, and I don't really need to see baseball. The resume, the activities that you list are listed by activity and not by year. By activity and not by year. Chronological is not what they want for that. So name of activity, so for example, field hockey, comma, 9-12, semicolon, 9-10, comma, JV, dash, defender, semicolon, MVP, comma, 10, semicolon, varsity, comma, 11-12, semicolon, team finished first in Central League, comma, 12. That's how it works. You won't have a lot of space, and I'm gonna show you a common application, like a real one. It's a fake one, it's me, but it's like real, in that it looks real to do. And you'll see what you have to be. It's really hard to fit these things in, so do not be too flowery in your descriptions, but be sure to identify. Because there are certain things, what's an example? Yeah, Lower Merion has this activity called Amazing Aces. Now, if you go to Lower Merion, or if you're in this district, you know what that is. If I'm the person at Richmond reading your essay, I have no idea what that is. So you have to explain that. You can't just put it out there and assume that somebody knows it. There's things that everybody knows. So everybody knows what DECA is, or FBLA, everybody knows what NHS is. Those are national organizations, but if it's something local, you have to make sure that you explain that, because otherwise they wouldn't know. The example that I give, Moorestown Friends High School over in Jersey, they do a talent show, it's called An Evening Without Liza Minnelli. Like, who would know what that is? Like, no one to do. You have to make them know. So here's a really big thing. Depth and commitment trump breadth and variety. Okay, colleges are gonna see, right, if you send them a 3-page resume with 25 different activities, the only conclusion that they could draw is that you have a methamphetamine lab in your basement. So that's not good, okay? They see right through that. You know, what kind of meaningful contribution can you make to 25 different activities? No way. So depth and commitment. Always try new things, of course, and don't feel like you have to do everything for 4 years. Okay, you're not gonna play field hockey in college, you're kind of tired of playing field hockey, maybe you're gonna try ultimate. That's fine, perfectly fine to do. But stick to a few things that are important or meaningful to you. Or productive. Maybe you have a job at Wawa, maybe you don't love your job at Wawa, but you have money, you can buy hoodies. You can go to the beach, and you have money, money's good. So, meaningful or productive, stick to them, and if you can rise to a position of leadership or responsibility. Now, one of the big things these days is, let's start my own club, and then I can be the founder and the president. Okay, I'm gonna look at that slightly skeptically, because if it's a club that has, let's say, a little bit too much similarity to the other clubs in your high school, it's like, really, that why not help those already established clubs and help them take off to do that? Most schools in their school profile will list the activities and clubs that they have, so I can see that, I can see what that is to do. So rising to a position of leadership doesn't mean you have a title. Doesn't mean you can, even if you're the captain or the president, it might mean that you're a committee person. It might be that you're somebody, you know, the faculty relies on. But so leadership and responsibility are not necessarily the same thing. But to be sure, having either one of those is important. That you show that you can take that responsibility to do it. And then you don't list any activities prior to grade 9. Because this is a high school resume. Now, there's the exception, unless your commitment to these was substantial and ongoing. If you started Girl Scouts as a 5-year-old brownie and you're still going for your gold leaf, list it. If you played a sport in the township leagues, starting at T-ball and you're still playing, start it. But if you were Peter Pan for 3 performances in 6th grade and you've never done anything else, I don't care. I don't care for that. So that's how the activities go. Will activities lift you above everybody else? Rarely. There's certainly one instance where it will. I was the leading scorer for the last 2 years of the state in basketball. Yeah. That'll lift you up very well. So recruited athlete, for instance, will get a lot of points with that. Other activities that could lift you would be those related to a major that you've selected. Now, virtually no colleges in the US ask you for a specific major, but if you pretty much know what you want, let's say you want to do business, and you've been in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, you've been in DECA, you've been in Education Clubs of America, you had an internship, and if you have several activities that are centered around that will help you. That will certainly help you to do it. Activities that are overrated, taking 3-week trips to Costa Rica to save turtles. Could you please go to Philadelphia and save people? Or Camden, to do. The kinds of things that are, and the sort of summer programs that are, I would call them pay to play. It's one thing to go to Penn in the summer and do a 3-week Penn program. It's another thing to go to Penn and do a 3-week Julian Krinsky program. Not a Penn program. Because a lot of these places, and I'm not picking on Julian, that Julian Krinsky. He's a riot. He's a really funny guy and incredibly tan. Let's say that, right? But I'm not picking on him. But a lot of places will rent space from college campus. It's just they're rental places. So if you want to do that, do it. But do it because you want to do it. Do it because it's a legit program. If you're invited to a college program, even better. And if you're invited to a college program but you choose not to go, you can still put that in. Invited to Telluride summer program, summer 11. There's maybe 800 people in the entire country that get invited to Telluride in the summer. So even if you don't go, that becomes something worth mentioning. But make sure it's a legit program if you want to put it down to do, right? All right. So let me show you what this looks like. Go away. Okay, so this is the site for the Common Application. It would be odd if your students don't use this for something. I'd say 42% of the colleges in the US are on this, and most of the well-known ones are on this. It's about 1,090 out of the 2,400 that are on this. Okay. So I sign in. Because I'm all set up, I'm a first-year student. There's my sign in. Signed in. Okay. I guess my students are actually busy doing their common applications tonight. Or maybe they're eating more pancakes. No fair. Come on, Common App. You see the 5 tabs, the dashboard, the one that's in gray, and then the others. Dashboard gives you the list of schools to which you're applying. My Colleges gives you the questions that each college asks specifically. College search, if you want to put any school on your Common App, and we'll skip financial aid. So I'm going to go to Common App. This is the actual Common App and what it looks like. Now, oh no, now you know my real name. Oh no, my real name is Francis. Cigus is a nickname I got from my brother. My real name is Vanni. Oh my God, my parents named me Vanni. Oh God. So thank God I have Cigus. So it's easy to do it this way. Profile is all about student, family is all about the student's family, education is all about the school. Testing is completely optional, you don't put anything in there if you want, so let's go to activities. And I'll show you how difficult, challenging would be a better word to do this. Because activity type, so position leadership, you get 50 characters. That's about 7-8 words. Organization name, you get 100, which is ridiculous, it should be the other way around. Right, 100 characters, and then the description, you get 150 characters, that's it. That's it. 150 characters, 25 words, that's it to do. So the rule here, and I'm going to look at it, of course, the rule here is that you don't use pronouns, you don't use complete sentences, you use semicolons, your best friend. That's the way it looks for that. You tell them when you did it, you tell them the timing, hours per week, this is your best guess. 36 weeks in the school year. So, and then you keep going, you have, there's 10 slots altogether. And in the Common App says priority list. Whatever you put in first is the activity that the college knows is most important to you. And goes down the list from there to you. Okay, so let's agree that this looks crappy. It does. But Common App is not going to spend its money on bandwidth. They don't want to look like Fortnite or a Tiro app video. They don't need to, right? They want to make sure that it's nice and calm and easy to do. So if you want to see what it looks like to the people reading it, this little circle preview, look at this. That's what it really looks like. Much nicer. Much nicer. That's what it's going to look like to the people that actually read it. They do. So that's the activities part, right? So let me get to next one. Timeline is interviews would be the next one. So questions about activities and anything I can clear up, expand upon. Is there one activity better than another? No, depends on you. There's no real hierarchy. Like French club isn't better than debate. Debate's not better than lacrosse, unless you're the best lacrosse player in Pennsylvania. Then it's better. It's really up to you. It's your choice. What's important, what's meaningful, what's productive for you for that. All set? Talk about interview? All right. So interview. How many colleges interview? What percentage? Less than 5. Oh, sorry, fewer than 5. No, less than 5. Fewer than 5. Well, whatever it is. To do. A lot of schools now are going to a different model of interviewing, which is the student interviewing themselves. Where you send a 2-minute video to the college and you essentially introduce yourself and tell them what's important to you. One way, clearly, is it's you sending that interview. The platform is called Glimpse, so a glimpse of the student to do. There's about 100 schools that do it that way. There are other schools that do the traditional interview. Rarely do you get an interview with an admissions officer now. It's often graduates, people who volunteer, who graduated from the college, or trained seniors. That's another big thing now, is that trained senior students are doing the interviews. So let's talk about the interview. Let's do a slideshow. Let's do the beginning, from the beginning. Your chance to engage the college directly. Okay, so it's never going to be the most important or critical feature. It's not. Rigor, grades, standardized test scores, you can send them. All that other stuff comes ahead of this. Okay, you're not going to talk your way to college. Sorry. No one's a better expert on you than you. I mean, really, you know yourself better than anybody. So you can articulate what's most important about you better than anybody else. So, big deal. Your interviewer went to college. Wow, your interviewer has a master's degree. Wow, they don't know you the way you know. And you should always be yourself because everybody else is taken. You don't have to perform. Sincerity, earnestness, again, the genuineness comes in here. There's no personality type. It's okay if you're low key, because that's you. If that's you. You don't get penalized if your personality is a little more quiet. And if you're a wild extrovert, that might be scary to college. So it's not up to you. So there's three questions that you're gonna interview, three questions. Number one, who are you? So who's most meaningful to you, accomplishments, what made you into interests? Tell me about your family, tell me about your school, what do you do in the summer? All about you. Okay, so this is past and present you that we're talking about. The next question is future you. What are your goals? How do you see yourself developing? Do you have a major in mind? Do you have a field in mind? What study do you want to pursue? Right? So this is how you're going to see yourself in the future. So past and present and future with this. And then the third question brings it together. Why this school? If this is where I was, if this is who I am, if this is where I want to be, what is it about your school that's going to get me there? So the why school part comes in. And this is also showing interest, of course. What is it about the college that you can show to that interviewer that lets him or her know that you're really sincere about this? How will the college help you reach your goals? So this, of course, means that you're going to need to do the research. Okay, so and you're interested in school, obviously, you've done some work with that, but maybe do a little deeper dig here, especially if you have particular majors or fields in mind, or if you have questions for the interviewer, which comes later, you're allowed to ask questions back in return to do. But these are not, except in the rarest of circumstances, these are not interviews about your academic skills. So for example, you're not going to get this question in an interview. Let's say you're in a rowboat on the Indian Ocean, and you're given the choice between a book by Jean-Paul Sartre or Soren Kierkegaard. What would you do? Well, of course, my answer would be, please drown me. You know, I mean, Jean-Paul Sartre, Being in Nothingness, right, wrote the play called No Exit. The most famous line is what? Hell is other people. Right? And Soren Kierkegaard wrote a 437-page book called Dread. Okay, drown me, please, drown me. You're not going to get those kinds of questions. You might get questions about something that you've done if the interviewer has your resume or your application. Some do, some don't. I know at Swarthmore, I was given the opportunity to read the application or read the, no, I wouldn't do it. I wanted to know the student. You know, like if I read something, I'm a human being. If I read something like I was an intern for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm like, I hate you. So I know this. So I chose not to read it to do. Assume that they don't know anything about you. And they'll tell you if they do. You know, I saw from your application, and you'll know that they know with that. Okay, so these are not academic questions that you will get.
You're saying you're not gonna talk your way in, but if you're not careful, you might talk your way out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like probably about half a dozen times each year, I would have somebody come into a Swarthmore interview with a Dartmouth shirt. Excuse me, you know? Oh, yeah. Sometimes that is good. Be knowledgeable enough about the question to ask meaningful questions, because that's gonna happen. You know, when the interview is finished, it's not really finished. The interviewer will leave 5 minutes or so and say, do you have any questions for me? So make sure you do have some questions about that. And not dumb questions. Like if you're interviewing at Penn, how many statues of Ben Franklin are there on campus? 7, by the way. Just in case you want to know for that. Dress appropriately and comfortably. This is true also online. I've had some interesting experiences with students online, so never mind. They do. Attend to your surroundings more, like don't leave your underwear on the chair. That has happened once in one of my Zoom interviews. So what's that on the chair? So no extremes, no glamour, no slovenliness, right? Don't need a prom dress, don't need distressed clothing all the way through. Bring a resume with you if you'd like. Sometimes the college will ask you to fill in some information about yourself. That's okay to do. You can make a transcript if you want. Not necessary. You know, not necessary, but you can do that. And remember your manners. If your parents are with you, introduce them, pretend you're like your younger brother, those kinds of things to do. Make sure you get the email or the business card of the person that interviews you, so you can send them a thank you note. It gives them one more reminder. So for Zoom, a little bit more on Zoom, quiet, comfortable setting, test your settings beforehand, have notes, same rules about clothing, alert other members of the family if you leave you alone, put the dog outside. If the cat, you can leave the cat because they're cute, right? You can leave them. If you have a resume or transcript, you want to share it, put it in a Google Doc and type in the link. Okay, not required, but if you want to do that, you can. Okay, not that often will you have an interview, but just I want you to be prepared if that's the case. That actually, back when I was at Swarthmore, the admissions office did do the interviews. And that was one of my favorite things to do. I love meeting my students. They were so amazing to do. I had some incredible interviews. I had, students that the one I still remember to this day. The young one had an odd name, but it was like familiar to me. Like, where did I know that name? And she gets to talking, and she's from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. There's only one reason why anybody's from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. What's in Oak Ridge, Tennessee? What are the national laboratories? There's 3 of them. There's one on Long Island, there's one in Tennessee, and there's Livermore out in California. So I said, I asked her, did your father or mother connected with the lab? Oh yeah, my father's like being director. Okay, good genes here. What to do? So we're talking, and she wants to triple major. It's just like, oh my God, this one. And it finally hit me where I knew her name. I had read an article about her in Time or Newsweek, if everybody remembers those news magazines, right? She had taken the BC calculus class as a junior, and she had solved a problem in a way that the people who designed the test didn't anticipate. What? BC calculus as a junior, and she found a unique solution that the developers of the test didn't even know about. Oh my God. So in all that time, about 15 years or so, I did on and off interviews. I only had 2 fatal interviews. 2. I had a young woman show up at an 8:30 appointment, wasted. She spent the night in the dorms, clearly ingested some illicit substances. Okay. She was incoherent. I called campus safety. I made sure she was safe, and campus safety took care of her. The other one was a little bit more amusing. Young woman from Vermont. It's the middle of August. Completely underestimates how miserable it is here in the middle of August. She's wearing a pretty heavy linen dress, and it's not meant to be offensive. She's a bit overweight. So she's off on that, doing the tour. She's like huffing and puffing and having a really hard time. So the tour ran a little bit late, and she was kind of scurrying up to the office where I was. She gets in the office, and my office is air conditioned. She gets about halfway through, and she stops, and she lifts up her dress all the way over her head. She lifts up her dress, shakes out the heat, right? Then she sits down, then she takes the dress, tucks it into her panty waist, opens her legs and goes, yes. And I'm thinking to myself, no. We have no limits. And I'm a professional, right? Despite this crotch looking at me, I conducted the interview. I was just, went right through with it. And at the end, I asked her, like, what the hell? What was all this about? And she was like, oh, I know Swarthmore's kind of liberal. I think you would mind. No, I'm 45, you're 17, I'm getting arrested. No, that's fine. I don't mind. So for those of you who may go interview, don't do drugs and keep your clothes on. Please. But that's it. I mean, every other interview was great. Some greater than others, but it was great to get to know my students. Right? So we're halfway through. It's time to give away merchandise. Ding, 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 ding. Those of you who have not been here before, you can win one of these hoodies. Now, I love hoodies, as you can already tell. So I decided that tonight I would win hoodies from some of the public universities in the United States. So we have the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, which is called Virginia Tech, which is a misnomer because it's not just tech. It's actually bigger than UVA. It's a really big comprehensive university. A lot of people do tech, but there's also agriculture and there's all kinds of other stuff. A great architecture program. They have cows. Any school with cows gets it big. Then we have University of Maryland, the Terrapins. You probably have seen the Maryland Fear of the Turtle. That's their famous shirt, Fear of the Turtle. Terrapins are not turtles, they're tortoises. Like, did somebody check that beforehand to do? So, Maryland is Penn State near a big city, about 10 miles from DC. Then we have Wisconsin. Wow, we invented cows, right? Wisconsin is Penn State, right near a big city. It's right at the edge of Madison. It's a great city. Then we have the Ohio State. The state. They tried to copyright the word "the" about 2 years ago. They really did. They seriously did. Ohio State is Penn State in a city. It's in Columbus. And then we have Florida. Isn't that horrible watching that hurricane? Oh. University of Florida, which is in Gainesville, which is a dump, but I didn't say that. So in case you want to go to Florida, it's a lovely city. Right, so you can win one of these, right? They're all different sizes, you can pick it out. And tonight, in honor of Jeopardy, I decided to use the category called Common Bonds. This is where I'll tell you names of colleges, and you tell me how they're the same. So if I said Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brown, you would say overrated colleges, right? To do, yeah, say Ivy League colleges. I said University of Pennsylvania, Penn State, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, you get it, right, okay? So I wrote some of these down so I wouldn't forget them. So let's start with this one, okay? The University of Kentucky, Northwestern University in Illinois, Davidson College in North Carolina, the University of Arizona, the University of New Hampshire, and Villanova University. They are all
Wildcats.
Wildcats. Wildcats. They're all Wildcats. Take a shirt. Take a shirt. They can't win again, but if you know it and nobody else does, you can tell it to them. Okay? Right? The University of San Francisco, the University of San Diego, Seattle University, the University of Dallas, the University of Scranton, St. Louis University. And oh, by the way, no answers like I've never been there, like you know, they've never been to my kitchen, right? University of San Francisco, University of San Diego, Seattle University, University of Dallas, University of Scranton, St. Louis University are all what type of college? Raise your hand. What affiliation do they have? They're all in big cities, I know that, right? Close enough, they're all Catholic, right? They're all Catholic schools. Help yourself. Grab a hoodie. Let's see. San Diego and Dallas are not Jesuit. The other four are. The other four are. They do. Okay. Curry College in Massachusetts, Pepperdine University in California, St. Basil College in Texas, Russell Sage College in New York.
They're all spicy.
Spices. They're all spices. Yeah, you can't not take the hoodie. I'm not taking these home with me. Take the hoodie. Arcadia University in Pennsylvania, the College of New Jersey, McDaniel College in Maryland, Rowan University in New Jersey, Cairn University in Pennsylvania, and Jefferson University in East Falls, Pennsylvania, are all colleges that, what did they do? That's common. All colleges that. Whisper it this way. Whisper it.
But isn't that, they changed the name?
Somebody raise your hand.
Change the.
That's right. They changed their names. They all changed their names.
I know better.
Arcadia used to be Beaver College because it was located in Beaver County and then it moved out here.
Okay.
College of New Jersey was Trenton State, McDaniel was Western Maryland. Jefferson East Falls was Philadelphia Textile and then Philadelphia University. Rowan was Glassboro and Karen was the Philadelphia Bible College.
Glassboro.
What, any more left? Oh, we have Virginia Tech. Okay, all right. Oh, here's a good one. Barry University in Florida. Franklin College of Switzerland. Sul Ross University in Texas. Whitman College in Washington.
What's the lead in?
Barry University. Franklin College of Switzerland. Sul Ross University. Whitman College in Washington. This is a tough one. I'll give you a hint. Think of the Delaware River. Barry University, Franklin College, Sul Ross University, Whitman College. Bridges.
Oh, yes.
Bridges.
Oh.
They're the bridges, right? You get the last one. I love this. It's such a fun game. Mars Hill College, York College of Pennsylvania, Midway College, Clark University, candy bars. Don't you love it? Candy bars. Oh no, it disappeared. Come back. End of slideshow, click. Okay. We're almost there for financial aid. Promise. This is a timeline. So what should we be doing now? Quickly. Timeline for admissions. 9th grade, chill. Seriously. Pay attention, do your best. All years in high school count in ascending order. So that would be crude about this. If you're gonna suck in high school, suck in 9th grade. Right? There are some colleges that do not count 9th grade. Princeton, Stanford, the entire UC system. They do not count 9th grade. I know, isn't that weird? Right. Acclimate yourself to high school, pursue activities, all that stuff. Be deliberate and reflective about the courses you select for 10th grade. Be with your school counselor, seek feedback, draw your own map. 10th grade, sign up for the PSAT, that's coming, it's in October. Oh, no pandemic restrictions these days, okay? PSAT is a practice test, it's really, truly a practice test. So don't sweat it, work hard, use resources, you'll get this, by the way, those of you who are on the mailing list, you'll get all of this to do. Select your junior year classes. I would, at this point, second semester of 10th grade, I would look at junior and senior year together. Like, try to, and not committing yourself to senior year, but drawing that map. Apply to summer schools, if that's something that you do. Learn about standardized testing, assume that you may be required to submit test scores. Explore colleges that interest you, and sign up for IB if desired and relevant. If you're in a school that offers IB, because that starts in junior year. That starts in junior year. 11th grade, register for SAT, ACT, PSAT again, you take. Juniors are eligible for the National Merit Recognition, but it's still a practice test. Start to get engaged with college choices. You can usually start to assume leadership positions and activities at this point, and maybe AP exams come in. Second semester, getting more focused in colleges, visit colleges, take tours. Sometimes colleges will come visit your high school. So this is a good time to get you. Select appropriate and challenging classes for senior year. The best analogy I can give you here is sports. There was a football game a couple years ago where a certain team was winning by 10 points at halftime. And they sort of relaxed. And the other team caught up and won the game. Oh, that was the Eagles. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. It's the senior year's fourth quarter. You can't stop after the third quarter. Especially the first semester of senior year, that counts, it really counts, guys, right? Make sure that we do that. If you're gonna be preparing an audition or portfolios for college, if you're doing VPA, as we call it, visual performing arts, right, you would need that. And you'll ask teachers for letters of recommendation, and we went over that. This typically you would ask them, well, you might have a teacher senior year, but yeah. So after 11th grade, begin your college applications. Most of the applications open on August 1st, so you can get started and not have to do all of it while school is in session. Look for the essay prompts. Now, the Common App has 7. The last one is topic of your choice, so you're going to need to know. But you can start looking at the supplementary essays if you have them. Colleges are open in the summer, and even though there may not be lots of classes, it's better to visit than not to visit at all. But if you go to Penn State in the summer, they have summer session. So there's 8,000 students at Penn State to do. Complete standardized testing requirements. Both the SAT and the ACT have summer testing. 12th grade, stay strong, keep it up. Meet with your school counselor, make sure that all the platform things are done, Navion, Score, whatever you need. Complete your applications, pay strict attention to deadlines. Colleges are not real flexible about deadlines. Consult with parents and guardians and attack the financial aid. Then second semester, make sure your mid-year grades are sent to the colleges. Prepare for your AP IB exams if relevant. Reflect meaningfully on where you will attend college, not the name of the college, it's what fits you. Financial considerations, but don't develop too much senioritis. Summer after 12th grade, go have fun. If you have AP or IB exams, the release is in July. So you would reach out to the college where you've been accepted to figure out what determines credit or placement. And by the way, if you get a 5 on the BC calculus exam and you're going to MIT, don't skip the intro class, please. Because every one of your classmates got a 5 on the BC calculus exam. You can deny, you can choose not to use the credit, even if you're offered it. You can be like, no, thanks. So choose wisely here. If you're going to MIT and you have a 5 on the English Lit exam, you never want to see English again, yes, that's great. But be careful here. I'm not sure I would skip physics at MIT either to do. So just be careful with that to do. Okay? So 12th grade summer, enjoy it. Go visit Lucy. Lucy Marking, the elephant mark. Yeah. One of my favorites, one of my old time friends to do. So I did go through that very quickly. I apologize, but I needed to do that. We're going to talk about financial aid. Move up, slideshow. Basics of financial aid, nice purple color. So you will have probably a bunch of questions here. I know a lot about financial aid, but I am not an expert. I know more than your average bear, but I've been doing this for a long time. I keep up with this. I go to seminars, webinars. I've been in DC. I used to have this. There's a big in with the FAFSA, the woman who ran the FAFSA before it crashed a couple years ago. She was a good buddy of mine. So I got like inside information all the time with that. Cynthia, she was a riot, just really one of those sort of like wonky but funny wonky types of people. Cindy Forbes Cameron was her name. What a great person to do. So I keep up with this and I can answer most questions. But if you ask me, oh, Cigus, should I do a PUBMA or a PUBMA? I don't know. I'm not at that level with any of this stuff to do. So let's dig into this and let's see if I can help you. So the first thing is this. Got to do a little bit of history. Always got to do a little bit of history with this. We are in the situation we are in the United States with financial aid because the laws passed in the 1960s have never been changed. They've been updated, but they've never been changed. So in the 60s, Congress passed, first of all, the Elementary and Secondary Education, ESEA. And that's what introduced federal aid into elementary and secondary schools. The ADA 504s, all of that came out from that. Next year, they passed the Higher Education Authorization Act, HEAA, and that's for colleges. Okay? Now, prior to that, the US government had not had any financial support programs. Isn't that bizarre? They did have the GI Bill. You know, so if you fought in World War II, like my dad fought in World War II, he could have gone to college. Of course, my dad dropped out in 7th grade because he hated school. But no college for my dad, right? My dad will be 103 tomorrow.
Wow.
103. Born September 27th, 1921. Oh my God. Yeah, that's hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Right? The century man, as we call it. So the GI Bill financed literally millions of men and women, mostly men, who then were able to go to college for not very much. I mean, and back then, it really wasn't expensive to go to college. It really wasn't. I will tell you that in 1968, when I took off to Swarthmore for my first year, my bill for everything, tuition, room, board, books, everything was $2,800. For everything. For everything. I know. Crazy to do. So the government finally said, we need to help people with this. But they made these two assumptions, okay? And these are killers. It is the responsibility of the family to pay for college. So we'll help you, but it's your responsibility. This is not the case in many other countries where most higher education is financed by the government. Where if you're in Canada, for example, and if you're in Ontario, and you want to go to the University of Toronto, it costs you about $2,000 a year Canadian, which is like $3 US. So I was on a webinar this morning with the University of Toronto. Like, what a great place. Oh, wonderful school. I mean, even in the UK, I mean, people were like screaming 5 years ago because the tuition went from like 3,000 a year to 4,000 a year. Oh my God. Go to Oxford for 4,000 a year. Okay, sign me up. To do. But not here. Here it's the responsibility of, see, once you graduate from high school, that public education burden is on your municipality. Free and appropriate public education, FAPE. Right, so once you get past 12th grade, 13th grade, right, that responsibility is the student and the parent. But the second one makes it worse. Debt doesn't count. What? Debt doesn't count. Now, wait a minute. Didn't you tell me that one of the best ways to begin intergenerational wealth is by buying a house? And by letting the equity of that house accumulate? So that means I have a mortgage. So I'm paying $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year, and that doesn't count? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. If my mortgage is completely paid off and you're paying $30,000 a year, the FAFSA thinks we make the same amount of money. Okay, car loans? No. Maybe the parent has a student loan from 20 years ago? No. Credit card debt? Nope. Debt doesn't count. Now, this is for federal aid. There's private schools that we'll get to that. Right? But this is for federal aid. Federal aid. So debt doesn't count. In fact, the FAFSA, the free education, the major one, because of the Fair Housing Act, can't even ask you about owning a home. Much less take into account your mortgage. Can't even ask you about it. Debt doesn't count. Okay. So what forms would you need? Sometimes as many as 3. Everyone who applies for financial aid does the first one. 3 applications for federal student aid, FAFSA. Okay. All school. I lost an S. All schools want this for need-based aid. The College Scholarship Search Profile, CSS Profile. Some schools want this for need-based aid and a few for merit-based aid. Okay? And in some schools, that's not good enough. You filled out 2 giant forms. We have our own forms. And Princeton, they have their own forms that you have to do. So you could be completing 1 to 3 forms. So for example, Penn State, just the FAFSA. Swarthmore, the FAFSA and the scholarship search, Penn all 3. So you might do 1 or 3. So the FAFSA as a federal government agency, it's the Department of Education. CSS is the College Board. Yes, that College Board, the evil College Board. And then the individual college financial aid forms, the financial aid administration at that school, usually in concert with one of the other forms as well. So they look at all of them. But some of these schools want such granular data, to put it that way, that they want more. So is the FAFSA going to be delayed again this year? Yes, it is. Oh, please. This drove us nuts last year. This was just, what a hot mess this was. And it came out, just recently, it came out that the federal government knew 7 months ahead of when they actually told us about it, that the FAFSA was gonna be delayed. They waited 7 months to say something about this. So it's supposed to come out October 1st. Then they said, oh, December 31st. Then it was sometime in January, February. And then after you filled it out, they had to make corrections because the calculation, oh my God. This was the worst. This was awful. This was, I mean, it was, oh, geez. So anyway, Congress passed the FAFSA Simplification Act, a total oxymoron, if you've ever known. Oxymoron is like the greatest word. It's supposed to be pronounced oxymoron, but everybody pronounced it oxymoron. And it's oxy and moron, Greek words for light and dark. Oxy for oxygen, moron for moron, seriously, for moron, dark, light, dark, that one. So it's supposed to be October 1st. This year is going to be December 1st. Except if you are in a small group of students who are being served by a community-based organization, we're going to be the beta testers. There will be about 1,600 students that will fill out the FAFSA starting on October 1st. And what their responses do will determine what glitches form and what changes need to be made. Okay? Now, I don't know that much about statistics or computers, but I know there's this thing called beta testing. Why were we not doing that like 2 years ago for this? I'm sorry, this, I get stuck in the middle of this, so it's just like, this is what to do. So it's gonna be December 1st, and maybe it will be December 1st, let's just pray that it will be December 1st to do. The profile, however, and the individual college forms, they'll be ready October 1. That's next week. Oh my God, it's next week, oh my God. So yes, they will be ready next week. Okay, so you can start on those. Well, you probably will know for your seniors, you'll know at least some of the schools to which they're applying. Again, FAFSA, everybody gets the FAFSA. About 300 schools get the profile, and maybe 20 will have their own individual forms for that.
Question for you, what about the states?
I'm sorry?
What about the states? Like CNPA when I finish mine and.
Oh, FIA, Pennsylvania Higher Education Association. When you finish the FAFSA will direct you to the FIA website. You answer 8 questions. Thank God, there's one simple thing to it. Pennsylvania will give you a maximum of $6,700 a year for college if you stay in Pennsylvania, and roughly $800 a year if you go out of state. They used to give you 0 if you go out of state to do. The one exception to that is West Virginia, but no thanks. West Virginia University has been dismantled in the last 10 years or so. It's like half the size. And it was a fabulous school for science and engineering, fabulous school. And just, it's like been, nothing to it. So you don't actually really start at the FAFSA. Parents, guardians, or any other contributors to your college education, you have to establish an ID first, the Federal Student Aid ID, FSAID. So you can sign the documents electronically. Okay, so this is all done electronically. Can you do a paper FAFSA if you'd like? Yeah, but it's hard. It's really hard to even get one. And if you do a paper FAFSA, you'll be delayed 5 weeks. If you do it online, it's 5 milliseconds. Seriously, when you press the button, it comes up and says, you're entitled to $0. That's me, right? Whatever your estimated family contribution would be for that. Okay? So, just, sorry. So you get your ID numbers and then you can sign it electronic, which is a very good thing to do. It's a federally managed document that inquires about student and family income, money earned through work, and assets, money accumulated in savings and checking accounts. Okay? Let me just tell you right off the bat, income's bad, assets are okay. It's okay to have assets. You're about the lady that lived above the bank? Her assets over $1 million. Sorry, that's bad. So if you have assets, you have savings, you have property, you have this, that, and the other thing. Only 12.5% of those assets at most will be taken each year. So if you have $100,000 in the bank, 50,000 will be left after your kid's 4 years of college. Income is deadly. Because it's disposable to the people who run the FAFSA. So if you have $30,000 a year left over after they see your expenses, oh, you can give us all of that, no problem. So you're penalized more for income than you are for assets. So go buy property. Oh, by the way, anything retirement does not count. IRAs, they don't count. Pensions, they don't count. 401ks, they don't count. Anything for retirement does not count. Isn't even asked for with this. Same with the value of your home. Okay, you own a house down the shore, probably not gonna get money. Okay, but the value of your home is not counted among your assets. Okay. So income, student and parent both fill this out because the student may have income. The student may have some assets to do. Then the FAFSA calculates student aid index and you get family contribution back. Where does the money come from? Well, federal government and your state's higher education assistance authority. This is what you had asked about before, sir. You may be directed to complete several additional questions to Pennsylvania after you finish the FAFSA. Private scholarships completely separate from this. So if you get money from the Lower Merion Township Scholarship Fund, private, completely separate from this. What kind of aid can you get? 3 times, scholarships and grants. What's the difference? Scholarship is specific, grant is open. Okay, loans. Loan is aid. It doesn't seem like it, the loans are aid. So you have to repay that. Typically, you have a period of up to 10 years. Some loans are subsidized, so you can delay repayment, which you can't do with unsubsidized loans. And the government pays your interest if it's subsidized. That can make a difference. They're still cheap. Let me tell you, when the pandemic came, the interest rate dropped to 0. Student loans had 0 interest for about 4 years. They're now back up to the usual, which is still, this is really cheap money. It's like 3.7%. You can't borrow anyplace else for 3.7%. So for example, if you borrowed $10,000 and you had 10 years to repay it, you'd pay about $130 a month. That's not soul sucking. You borrow $50,000, you're paying almost $1,000 a month. That's really tough, especially if you're just trying to get out of college and have a job. Not so good. Then work study. Work study is not simply a job on campus. Work study is a federally funded program. The feds pay 80% of the salary, I'm sorry, 75% of the salary. The school pays 25%. So if I'm at Drexel and I'm working in the library and I'm being paid $12 an hour, Drexel's paying me $3. Federal government's paying me the other $9. These jobs are plumbed, so they get assigned first. So these are pretty much the best jobs. And the best job in college, oh my God, if you can get this, babysitting the field house. You sit there for 3 hours, 4 hours, you give out towels, you give out volleyballs, you give out tennis rackets, you do your homework, you listen to music. Best job ever. Worst job ever? Food service. Don't. Turn it down. Turn it down. Okay? FAFSA's free. Free application for federal student assistance, free. Best F word in the world. What's the best phrase in the world? Free food. CF profile is not free. So like, if I went online to you and I said, hey, you give me $30, I'll tell you where to find money, you'd be like, that's what the profile is. $25 to register, $16 per school. You're giving them money to find you money, except they actually do find you money. So that's good. That's a good thing. Analyzes student and family reasons much more thoroughly than the FAFSA. Allows individual colleges to use their own institutional methods. So now the college can come in. Most of the schools that require the profile are well endowed. And a family is more likely to receive aid from that set of schools. More tedious, more complex, more annoying, but well worth the family's time and effort. Okay? So, grown-ups in the room. You ever remember watching Twin Peaks? The show Twin Peaks, that great music. There was a saying, the owls are not what they seem. Well, some things are not what they seem. You would assume, for example, that a college that costs the least would be the better bargain, right? Published fees of private universities exceed 85 grand, some are in the 90s now. But many of the most expensive colleges are the ones that are the most generous. So look at this. Here's Penn State, main campus, right? Pennsylvania resident. Almost 40,000. So, and that cost of it, COA is cost of attendance, I'm sorry. So that's tuition, room, board, books, pizza.
Travel, all that.
Travel, yeah, that's everything, cows, you have to visit cows if you're in that state. So it's almost 40,000. The average financial aid is almost 10, so the actual cost is about 30. Okay, Penn, yikes, right, 85.7, average financial aid 43, so the actual cost is a little over 40,000. So it's about a $13,000 difference, not a $50,000 difference. So you're like, oh, okay, right? So that's one example. Let me give you another one. This is Maryland. So Maryland is cheaper than Penn State if you're a Maryland resident. If your kid's a senior, too late to move, sorry. You move to New Jersey, you'll need 30 days residency in New Jersey, because New Jersey knows nobody wants to live there.
No, wait, 30 days.
30 days, 30 days. California, you need 2 years. In New Jersey, you need 30 days, right? So Maryland, 29.6, average financial aid 11,000, actual cost 18. Hopkins, 80,000, average financial aid 54, actual cost, it's only $8,000 more. Like, please, come on. Right? If you receive the average amount of aid, you might get more from Johns Hopkins. I mean, these schools, I had the pleasure of assisting a young woman from Belarus to come to school here in the US. And she had negative money. She actually had to move to Poland for her senior year of high school because her father had been arrested in protest. Lukashenko is way worse than Putin. Hard to believe, but to do. So the family was underground for a while. Father lost his business. So she needed to go to a school that could give her full financial aid. And she got into Haverford, and Haverford gave her $93,000. And we're buddies now. It's like actually see her. We've had lunch. It's like, oh my God, this is right. Her name is Dasha. Every Eastern European woman is named Dasha, I swear, right? And she's just a wonderful young woman, wonderful. I think English is her fourth language. She got a 720 on the reading section of the SAT. Okay, right, so one more. Okay. This one goes against the grain because it doesn't work for every. So University of Virginia, right? University of Virginia is really cheap for in-state. Look at the financial aid; it's really generous. So if you get the average financial aid, Virginia's only $11,000 a year. Well, Richmond private school would still be $30,000 a year. So you go to the Wahoos for Virginia to do it. Now, if I did Rutgers, I should do Rutgers, because Rutgers comes out about, Princeton comes out about $1,000 more than Rutgers. Because Rutgers is New Jersey, so Rutgers is more expensive to do, right? So don't, the sticker price is not, now here, this is great, right? Annual cost of Princeton University, 86.7. Number of students in first year class, 1,200. If Princeton paid for everybody, it'd be $104,040,000. It's a big number. But Princeton endowment is 37.7 billion, which is less than 1/3 of 1% of Princeton's endowment. Now, you know Princeton is getting investments of what, 15, 20% a year? Less than 1/3 of 1%. And Princeton pay for everybody to go.
Question for you,
Sure.
what are they doing with those endowments? Same thing with Harvard, sets are crazy.
They are typically accumulating wealth so they can continue to have the power and control that they want. And let me be a Marxist for a minute, until influence, power, money, and control are separated, nothing's ever gonna happen. Unless somebody changes those first two in the FAFSA about debt and family, nothing's gonna happen for that. You know, why would Congress change, right? They're all millionaires, most of them. And those kids are all gonna get into college. I mean, there's no incentive for them to change. Okay, so it's not the sticker price, it's the actual price that matters. Okay, every college, starting in the fall of 2017, was required to put a net cost calculator on their website. Well, all colleges that receive federal funding, about 10 choose not to get it. So you can enter your income and assets, and you get an estimate within 5% of what your family would have gotten the previous year, no guesswork. So you can do this on any school, you go to Richmond, you go to Virginia, you can go to Transylvania, you can figure out what you would get, and it will be within 5%. Wonderful. Wonderful. Other sources of financial support, you might get Merit Aid for achievements, for athletic prowess, or artistic skills, for community involvement, you might get all of them. Merit Aid comes from the colleges themselves, community organizations, national foundations, and private sources. Music and engineering are the two most well-supported merit scholarship majors, music and engineering. So double major in bassoon and mechanical engineering. There you go. Okay, so the later FAFSA, you really have to do your homework ahead of time, especially if a student wants to do any of the early programs to do. More information is here. So let me get out of this, and I'm gonna do one more thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is a wonderful website, finaid.org. The fellow who does this, Mark Leibowitz, retired from maybe, I don't know, 28, 30 years of service, and he operates this website on his own. This is all his generosity that he does. Okay, so let's do a quick calculation. Okay, expected family contribution. I'm going to show you how this works. So, right, student is a dependent, student state of residence is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Household size, let's give him a little sister. Younger sister, sorry. So, younger sister. Number of members in college, that would be 1. Parent information, we have 2, oldest parent is 47. Why do they ask that? Well, the older the parent is, the more asset protection you get. Because if the parent's 63, they're gonna retire in 2 years, and they need that money for themselves. Parents file taxes, please don't answer no to this, and if you do, don't tell me, right? So parents make, between the two of them, 150 grand. And income tax paid, that would be what, 28% bracket? Yeah, about 28%.
Great work.
38,000. Parent 1 income, well, let's split it, 75,000. 75,000. Of course, they would know you're lying if you ever did this. Untaxed income, yeah, we report untaxed income, right? Parent savings, $7,309. Investments that worth right, business farm, right? Student file taxes, no. Adjusted gross income, $561 for childcare. Untaxed income, right? Right, student savings, students never put zero here. Because they think you're lying. Investments, you have investments, right? So this took about 5 minutes, so, and these are clearly general numbers, but I hit calculate. And that's what I'd be expected to pay each year for college, 20,000.
Per year.
Oh, yeah, per year. I've put in $150,000 a year income. Okay, so there's a lot of protection in that. So this is just the FAFSA. If you go through the profile, you might get more than that. And you can change this, of course, you up one through the other. If you put $12,000 in the student account, well, they love taking students' assets because they figure, what does a student have except for Wawa? The student doesn't have anything to pay their money with. So if a student has $50,000 in the bank, they'll take 1/3 the first year, 1/3 the next year, and 1/3 the third year. You don't have anything left for senior year, the student wouldn't have. Okay, so it's 8:27, I'm sorry, I took a little longer with that. Questions, wrap up, anything that you want to ask? Yes, sir.
About the tax related information, which tax year you are using?
The year before. So if your kid's applying this year, class 25, you're using the 2023 taxes. Okay, they changed that about 4 years ago because everybody was rushing to get their taxes done and they were making mistakes to do. So it's prior year. So 2023 would be for this year's seniors. Good question, thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about how the 529s factor in?
529s can be used for college. They can't be used for like hiring a consultant or anything like that. They're directly, and it could be any college expense, doesn't have to be tuition. Any college expenses. They're not counted as an asset for the parent, they're counted as an asset for the kid.
Are you talking about how that factors into the cost of attendance? That's a big piece too.
Oh, yeah, cost of it, I mean, UCLA is a wonderful school. But the cost of attendance is flights, and it's a big investment just to get there to do that. So yeah, the 529s, they've been protected, that's the reward you get, they've been protected as you've been putting the money in there. And you won't have to pay taxes on them when they take it out, unless you don't use it for educational purposes. In which case, that's bad.
For use, but basically, like what you were saying, if the student had $12,000 for savings, we put like the 529 amount in there.
Yeah, that would be counted as a student asset, but that's separate, because you can use. You have a choice of how much of the 529 you want to use each year. They don't necessarily take it all at once. It's up to you what you want to use it for, but it must be used for educational purposes. Right? And if you open it, you can't, like you have a second kid, younger kid, you can't transfer it to them because it's one kid. Yeah, I asked about this 1,000 times because I have nieces and nephews. I'd be happy to do a 529 for them. They're like, no, they're not your kid. They're my nieces and nephews. My son's never gonna have a kid. I never had that talk with him. He's like just having a great old time in life. I'm like, oh no. Anyway, so yeah, it's up to you how much you want to put in. You can do it all in 1 year, or you could split it up among the 4 years if you want.
You can take out my month. I'm not gonna pay rent, so rent I could do by the whole year in one check or by quarter by month.
Exactly. Much more flexible than the other plans.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Or you could go to one of the US Service Academies. You pay $75 to rent your uniform, that's the only cost you have, other than the 5 years of service afterwards.
You still get $100 a month, right? Like it
Yeah,
used to be.
yeah, you get a salary from it. You could go to Deep Springs, which is free. You could go to Cooper Union, which would be free in 2028. And there's some cheapo
The library will
schools,
be closing in 30
not a lot of them.
Please
not a
take
lot.
your items. to
Berry
your service
College
desk
in
for checkout.
Georgia,
We'll be open
Berea
tomorrow
College
at
in
10 a.m.
Kentucky,
Thank you.
no cost. You do community service in return for what you get for that. So there's a few out there. Not a lot. So those of you who are on the email list, you will get all these resources. You have my email. If you have questions that come up afterwards, you can just say, hey, Cigus, what about? And I'm happy to answer. Might take me a day or two, so especially now, I'm like really busy now with that, so. But thank you all for coming and
Thank you.
have a great flight.
Yeah.